Welcome, everyone. Good morning. It is at least good morning here in the East Coast where Jesse is. It's he's like on Wednesday, I think, by now with that international date line. He's in Thailand. We have Jordan Capozzi in Syracuse, New York. Welcome to the show. And we have Chad down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Yes.
I mean, I guess you couldn't really tell where he's from based on what he's wearing today. I often wonder, guys, whether his like when he does business meetings or goes to a board meeting, is it the same clothes? I mean, is this his suit that he wears to church?
Purple and gold tie at the very least. I have no doubt in that.
I can answer that question very simply. So I wear a hard hat, steel-toed shoes, a high-vis vest, and safety glasses and earplugs to work every day. And my hard hat is an LSU helmet. So I'll just say that. I've got LSU helmet decals on the side of my hard hat. So yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
It's not a tie. It's I'm a blue-collar working man. So, but yeah, I get it done that way.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking like an orange, maybe not Syracuse orange, but maybe Tennessee volunteer tie on that jacket you have on right now. I think the color of the orange and the purple would be outstanding.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Jesse Schule, how are you? You got to have jet lag out the wazoo with the miles you put on.
No, it's not too bad. I mean, Malaysia's not that far away from Thailand, so I did have a connecting flight in Bangkok today, so I basically spent all day in an airport or several different airports. But, it's 9 o'clock at night. I got a glass of wine. I just had a pizza, ready to turn on some games and watch college football. Life couldn't be much better, really.
That's awesome.
I hear you. Jordan, what's going on with you, buddy?
I hope I have something to say today because it's Syracuse football bye week. So they just had their Monroe Madness event last night in Rochester, the scrimmage with the men's and women's team. So college hoops they're here, folks. I'm getting hyped for those. But no, that means I get more time to actually focus on the Saturday slate and then, of course, ride into Sunday. 5-0. I'm not letting you forget it. 5-0. NC State, you're up next.
I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised. I've been riding the Syracuse orange all year.
I'm convinced, John, they went 5-0 because you keep picking them, by the way. So if you just keep picking Syracuse, we could ride that to a natty. Seriously.
That's
You're doing
true.
The Lord's work, man.
I do have the power to make that happen. Yeah. If only, right?
Listen, John, let me just offer you some advice. Bet with your head, not over it.
I've never heard that before in my life. We should get that trademarked.
It's embroidered on a pillow.
That's incredible. And then may all the wins be yours or something,
Yes, that's right.
That'd be beautiful. But seriously, on Wednesday, I was on ESPN Syracuse with Jordan and Stephen Fonte and Paulie. And Paulie wasn't there, though. It was Mike Waters, was it? The beat writer for the Syracuse basketball.
Hall of Fame college basketball writer, baby.
Yeah, he was actually really incredible. I didn't realize he was Hall of Fame, but I can see why. And, you should definitely go back and listen to his segment. Really good stuff. But my question to you guys is the Syracuse game last night, the point spread was like in the 50s and it was 49-0 at halftime. And
I thought about y'all when I saw that.
Together like it was Little League. And I'm not being disrespectful saying it. I can only think of this like in girls softball where there's a 10-run rule. Little League, there's a 10-run rule. They decided to play 10-minute quarters instead of 15-minute quarters to make it, I guess, look less bad for Wagner.
And then they left the starters in for the first series, and their Heisman hopeful running back almost got hurt, by the way.
Have you ever heard of that? I mean, that could you imagine that happening in the NFL, and Belichick walks up to a head coach back in his prime days and says, if you want me to take the foot off the gas pedal, we're going to play 10-minute quarters.
Yeah. So what happens if you've got a bet on Syracuse and they're borderline covering and they change the rules in the middle of the game? They play 10-minute quarters and they're like a 50-point favorite and they win by 48. I mean, don't you have a case to go to the bookmaker and say, I ain't paying?
So I've seen a lot of people, especially former SU, Newhouse grads who are out of state. Looks like a lot of the bets got voided. No 55 minutes of action, which stinks because 59-0 Syracuse covered either way, even with the shortened quarters. And, I was at that game, so you can say, oh, Wagner could have scored it. No, they couldn't have.
But that's fair, though. If I had to guess, that's the way it should be. That's the way every baseball game, every event is. I mean, you set those rules beforehand, you live by them, you die by them. Because, like I said, there is the chance it goes the other way. And if you had a team that was almost covering and they shortened the game and they just came a half a point short, you'd want that bet nullified for sure, and you'd be well within your right to want it nullified, I think.
Yeah, and I think like to John's point, like how crazy out of the ordinary this is. I think the only time I've seen something like this happen before is if there's some sort of weather situation or some other, something that's like an act of God type of situation, not this where it's like, hey, this score got out of hand, and unbeknownst to everyone else, we at halftime decided that we're going to change the rules of the game for the second half. At some point, like, where is the NCAA in this? Like, how, you know what I'm saying? Like, can you just alter the rules of college football at halftime?
NCAA handbook, at any time during the game, the playing time of remaining periods may be shortened by mutual agreement.
Okay, well, there you go.
On.
So that's
Boston lost by like 98, or they won by 98.
First betting opportunity for the show then is after the show's over, I'm going to call a few places like Bet Rivers, MGM, DraftKings, FanDuel, and the like. And I'm going to say, I want you to give me odds that Jimbo Fisher is going to go to Nick Saban at halftime to shorten the game so that he can recruit again next year.
Oh, my God. This guy.
That'll never happen, obviously, but I'm just kind of kidding about it. But it's kind of crazy.
Jimbo's too proud for that. Yeah.
We'll get to that game in a little bit, but let's tee up Tennessee on the road here at LSU. And as Chad and I were learning before we went on the air, the left tackle for LSU is out, making it more difficult for them to run the ball. And I'm kind of feeling like an under in this SEC matchup that starts at noon. Tennessee's a 3-point favorite, and granted, it's not nighttime in Baton Rouge, LSU night game. But I'm sure the fans just got a little bit early head start, and they will be ready to go. Really tough venue to play in, really tough. Probably one of the second or third toughest, other than Penn State. I don't know where that is coming from, but here I got it. Sorry about that.
I was going to say, that's not me.
John, you're really upping the ads on this.
You can imagine.
You getting a good chunk of change for that?
Yeah, it was one of the people that paid for the advertising for this fantastic sports betting show. No, seriously. Let's start with Jordan on this game. See if he has any thoughts on who's going to win, or whether you agree with the feel that I have for the under.
So I made all my plays this week up until now on Tuesday. Me and one of my buddies got looking at some lines that we thought were odd, and I don't know why. This one kind of stuck out to me. I think LSU, that weird game they lost against FSU real early in the season, is still kind of stuck in my craw. But LSU at home, I thought 3 was a little small personally for how Tennessee's been playing. So up since Tuesday, I've been on LSU. I actually have the money line. And I'm seeing like 65% of bets, at least according to Action Network, are on Tennessee. Line's not really budging. I think this is – I always look, undefeated team or really good team, where are the games that they could lose that nobody's really looking at? And you're going, to LSU. You got to play in Death Valley. You got to play in that environment. I think this is a game LSU could steal, but I'm only on that because I expected the line to be a little higher, honestly.
That's good stuff. I agree with the undefeated in the SEC is really a prize that can be won by Georgia or Alabama, really, in each year that we've seen recently. But let's turn it over to
let's not talk about the 2019 LSU team that did it. But anyway, yes, continue.
Well, there are exceptions to every rule, of course. but that was a great team. That might have been one of the best teams in the last decade in the SEC. But Jesse, what do you think of this game? Do you have any good ideas here for a betting opportunity?
I love Tennessee here. This is a play that I've put out for clients. I hear what you're saying, Jordan, and you look at the idea that the home dog and LSU's tradition, and it's a tough place to play. We all know it's tougher at night, but it is a tough place to play. But you need the quarterback play, and if you don't get the quarterback play, it doesn't really matter how tough of a place it is. And with that left tackle missing, I'm not a big Brian Kelly fan. I mean, try and rack your brain for the last few big games that Brian Kelly has coached in. His teams have been annihilated. He didn't look good in that Florida State game either. They didn't look good in their win over Auburn last week. They were outgained. They got very fortunate. This does look like a program that's not quite where they want to be at this point in time. And then you got Hendon Hooker. What can you say about his track record? I mean, if you were coming in here with a quarterback who's, mediocre, but, yeah, it's a tough place to play. Maybe he's going to struggle. But a guy like Hendon Hooker, Heisman hopeful, touchdown to interception ratio. Where is the track record to suggest that Hendon Hooker is going to have a bad game here? Like what have we seen from Hendon Hooker in the last 2 years that tells us he's going to go into LSU and just throw up a stinker? Because from where I'm sitting, it ain't there. Everything says Tennessee's going to come in. They're going to put points on the board, and LSU with Jaden Daniels, can they match him? It's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough.
Yeah, the thing that really flies under the radar, you don't hear it mentioned at all, is the fact that Tennessee is number one offensive team in the nation in yards per game, and they do play pretty fast, and that's what's cautioning me to play the under. But they're averaging 559.3 yards per game. In terms of the opponent power ratings that LSU and Tennessee have faced, they're basically the same. So now you have a matchup with the, number, I think LSU's passing defense here is 19th, allowing 56.2% pass completions, and Tennessee, who's number 2 offensively, completing 74% of their passes, which is insane. Let's turn it over to Chad here, our resident LSU expert, and see what he's got for us.
Yeah. So if I'm looking at what happened to me last week when I saw that Auburn game, like it was like a glowing, like, please, like give me 8.5. That's it. Okay. Yeah, let's go. Obviously 17-0 down in the first half. I'm scrambling for my life, the rest of that game. Luckily for me, I was hitting the money line in game. And so I cashed out big time on that game once LSU came back and won it. But yeah, I'm concerned enough to stay away from this game just because I'm not stupid. Like I know that I bring a bias to this to LSU, to betting on LSU or anything like that. And so when I see something like this, I try to stay away because what I think is my mind is telling me to take LSU in this game because of some of the things that I see from LSU defensively. If you look at how they've played, especially in the second half of games, once they make those second half adjustments in the last several games, I don't think they've given up a point in the second half in like 3 games or something like that. 3 or 4 games. They haven't given up a point in the second. I think they gave up 3 to Mississippi State in the second half. And that's it in their last 4 games. So that defense is playing really, really well. Harold Perkins is starting to establish himself. He's a true freshman linebacker. He's starting to establish himself as a real disruptor, troublemaker, and he's earned himself more and more playing time and not just spot situational duty. LSU's given up 15 points a game as a defense overall. And I know they haven't played a whole, a slate of tremendous defenses or anything like that, but I think to just assume that Hendon Hooker is going to come in here and light him up is going a little bit too far. And I'm kind of with Jordan. Something about this line being as low as it is, because I'm honestly surprised too. I would have expected this to be a touchdown. And the fact that it's only 3 tells me somebody knows something. And then the fact that it didn't move when they found out that Will Campbell was out, it was like, yeah, that doesn't affect our models. Our models are not based on, Will Campbell and his ability to keep people, because he's a true freshman too. and he was playing well, but he wasn't like this, unbeatable guy on the edge. So I like LSU in this game, but for me personally, I'm staying away from it just because my heart is invested too much and I can't put my money there.
It's always
I know
smart to do it.
I know he didn't play last week. Sorry, John, but
That's all right.
I didn't. I'm more looking at the lines. I don't see all of those stats for every game that you do, and how good LSU's pass defense is versus Tennessee's offense. That really intrigues me. I know he didn't play last week. How big of a deal you think it'll be that Tennessee's top wideout is out again?
Mm-hmm.
You want to take that, Chad?
Yeah. Well, it's potentially big for maybe 2 or 3 plays a game. I think, where that guy wins his matchup one-on-one. I think the bigger difficulty is Hendon Hooker and his ability to make plays, keep his eyes downfield, and make plays deep downfield when the play breaks down. And I think the key is going to be how well does LSU bring kind of that John Chavis, the look that they brought when they played against Johnny Manziel for a couple of years, and they've done it against some of these other running quarterbacks where instead of over pursuing and having too much of a speed rush and letting that guy dip under that speed rush and then stay behind the line of scrimmage and look downfield without having to worry about that pass rush. If you can keep the pass rush in front of him and force him to make plays from the pocket and from a messy pocket, that's completely different from over pursuit, and then he breaks contain and he's out on the edge and he's looking downfield and he's hitting 75-yard bombs on people. So that's going to be key, and that's why I'm kind of staying away from this one, is because I don't know that they can do that. And LSU, look, let's be perfectly honest, LSU is in a state of flux. Over the last couple of years, they lost a lot of people to the draft and to the transfer portal, and with all the COVID protocols and the being able to opt out and all this stuff, they've lost a lot of guys in the secondary, and they've brought a bunch of guys over from some of these like lower Division I schools as transfers just to fill gaps. And so this is not the DBU, Patrick Peterson, Tre'Davious White, Grant Delpit, those stud DBs that LSU has had in the past. This is a duct tape and baling wire secondary right now that has some talent but is not elite. So that's what concerns me. But the play up front, even with Mason Smith out for the year, the way that they've been playing up front, B.J. Ojulari and, like I said, Harold Perkins and those guys, it's a very, very interesting matchup up front.
I got a question for Chad.
All right.
What do you think of Tennessee's run defense matched up against LSU with obviously Daniels struggling in the passing game? I've sort of been led to believe that Tennessee's been pretty strong against the run. Are you concerned about that?
I'm a little concerned about it. LSU's been running the ball a lot better lately, and the thing that really jumped out at me was LSU threw the ball for 85 yards last week, or 84, something like that. So it was atrocious. Jaden Daniels called a players-only meeting on his own to address that. To address the fact that they've got to do more. They've got to make more plays. And Brian Kelly even addressed this in his press conference this week, where he said, Jaden Daniels hadn't turned the ball over yet this year, hasn't thrown an interception. And that's good, but sometimes you've got to hazard a little bit of, disaster sometimes to make plays. You've got some big play receivers. You've got some really capable guys. And if you're not throwing 50-50 balls up to them and letting them go up and challenge in the air and make plays, you're really doing yourself a disservice. You can't wait for somebody to be wide open for you to throw. And that's what I've seen a lot too, is like he seems like he holds onto the ball a little too long, or he takes off to run a little too early. And so I'm more thinking of this from the standpoint of if what Jaden Daniels saw and what the coaching staff has seen with their inability in the passing game actually translates into them doing some things differently, they could be more balanced, and the ability of Tennessee to stop the run could be rendered a little bit neutral if you force them to have to commit more people to coverage, because then you can hit some of those running plays, draw plays, screen passes, and things like that to overcome that.
Would you say that it's important for them to get off to a good start early? Like if he's going to have to throw more, we've all accepted that. I did hear Kelly say that as well. Sounds like he's on board for that. So if he comes out and has early success, gets some confidence, Tennessee's secondary is not that great. That's right. But if he comes out and gets picked off in the first series, it's a nightmare, right? Where do you go from there?
Yeah, and if LSU gets out to a slow start, the other thing that concerns me too is then you start to become a little more one-dimensional as an offense. And when you become one-dimensional as an offense, you're just playing right in a defense's hands, no matter how good the defense is. Look, see, the dogs are barking. That means LSU's going to win.
Those are Northwestern dogs.
Well, speaking of dogs that I don't think are going to win, and I actually think are quite vulnerable, we have the Kansas Jayhawks, which is a great story. I just love seeing a team that has, been a doormat in their conference, for lack of a better word, start kicking butt and repaying some of these teams that have run the score up on them. But I do think that TCU today is going to be too much, despite the fact that game day is in Lawrence, Kansas. And I just see TCU the better team on both sides of the ball, especially their defense. Their defense, as you saw last week, is extraordinarily quick. And their angle of attack to the ball carries is some of the best I've seen on video all season. And I'm comparing this to the Alabamas and the Ohio States and the other elite teams of the land. And I think TCU is a team that, although surprising right now, we didn't expect them to be where they are now. They are a team that definitely could make it to the Big 12 championship, in my opinion. So my play today on this matchup, for what it's worth, is TCU minus the points. And I don't mind that this opened a long time ago at 2.5. And it's now, trading at 8. And I think there's value all the way up to 10.5. And I don't mind the steam move. I don't, the Joes and the pros, as they call it, are on TCU. That doesn't bother me in the least here, because I really think, based on my research and my predictive model, TCU wins this by 14 or more. So I'll turn it over to Jordan here and see if he agrees or disagrees, or maybe a first half bet or whatever you want.
I'll start with the caveat of I could be very wrong after what TCU did last week. I mean, Oklahoma's they're so up and down, but that was impressive. But again, when I saw the line, my thought was, how is Kansas with College game day, with an undefeated season, the same vibes as Syracuse, and I know how everyone's doing up here, how is Kansas a 7-point dog at home? And that's why I'm not looking at all the advanced stats. I'm looking at these lines this week, what I think about them. We've had enough time now to where I think I can look at them and pull something out of it. And I do like TCU as well. College game day, I know it's not that much, but that is going
changes
to be
it, man.
Another crazy environment. And I think everybody should be loving Kansas right now. Like you said, John, they're a big storyline. They're a big national darling. So you'd think a lot of people would be like, oh, well, they don't even have to win. They just have to play close at home. Okay, I'm in on that. But I like TCU too. I mean, they were impressive, and 7 is not a lot. Up to 10.5 scares me, but I believe it. I believe it.
Well, and that plus 240 money line is very, very tantalizing too. If you're looking at that Kansas team, you're like, oh yeah, give me that all day. And then I'm always looking for these bait plays, where they're just dangling, come on, fishy, 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 come get it.
That's true. Jesse, what do you think of this matchup?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've done a lot of shows this week. I've watched a lot of shows this week, and everybody's on TCU. And I think everybody makes valid points. I'm not going to sit here and debate that everything you guys are saying is correct, but I'm not ready to step in front of Kansas, though. I had them the last 2 weeks. I'm not on them this week, so that says something right there. But I'm not going to be surprised if this game is closer than some people think. I don't really think of this. I don't think this team is a flash in the pan. I think the coach really has something going here. I really like their quarterback. Watching them the last couple of weeks, and especially their defense last week against Iowa State, the fact that they found a way to win in a different style. So now they're not just outscoring everybody. their strength of schedule so far. You know, I kind of think TCU is a little overhyped after beating Oklahoma. That said, I'm off the game. I'm not taking the points, even though it's been bet up. I've got the opportunity to put my money where my mouth is, and I think this is a game that I'd rather just sit back and watch rather than have anything involved in it.
I have a question for you, Jesse. If Kansas scores first, a touchdown, and it must be a touchdown in my in-game strategies, would you be tempted to take TCU then with Kansas leading 7-0 and getting a line, say, of probably around 4.5?
No.
Okay.
Easy.
Fair enough.
Because I would, if like you, I wanted TCU from the get-go. But because I don't necessarily want to have any money on TCU from the get-go, I would not want to jump in after one touchdown with that.
Can I ask a follow-up to that question?
Sure.
If it goes the other way, if TCU jumps out to a 7-0 lead, are you tempted to hammer the money line on Kansas?
No, not the money line, but
maybe the plus 10 or something like that, plus 9.5. Yeah,
plus 10.5.
Yeah.
If TCU goes up 7-0 in like the first minute and the line goes to 10.5, count me in for shits and giggles, as they say.
All right. Well, did we answer this question about the under in that? I mean, it's 69.5.
We haven't.
That's a big number, but I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, I don't want to take that. I'm with Jesse. I'm staying away from this game. I might look at something in game, if it makes sense, but I kind of have to like have my idea of who, because I was on TCU too, but now that you tell me that like you're here and everybody's on TCU, I'm kind of like, I don't know. Look,
I'm
surprised everybody's on TCU. I can tell you all the big boys are on TCU this year.
Maybe I'm waiting for a Kansas opportunity at that 10.5, like you said, and that's the only thing. I'm staying away from the over/under, and I'm staying away from anything pregame.
I guess, Jordan, that makes you and me big boys, according to Jesse Schule, which I take as a compliment.
We're stupid. We'll find
I'm sorry, guys. I wasn't actually talking about you guys, but
take a compliment wherever it comes, John.
That's it, man.
That's how you got to do it.
You got to. Let's see. We have another game that's very puzzling to a lot of us big boys, and that's the UCLA game. They're +3 home dogs against a team, the Utah Utes, who I think is vastly, vastly better. My models, my research have come up with 0 on this game. But here again, the live in game becomes tempting if UCLA gets out to a fast start. You know, home crowd. Obviously, it's not going to be much of a home crowd because they're having trouble drawing people to the Rose Bowl. And it is about an hour distance to get to the games for the students. So I understand that whole thing. But I would think that stadium will be probably the largest crowd this year. But it still won't be a packed house like you would see at a Penn State facility, like in the background here. Let's start with Jordan again and see what he has here with the UCLA team and whether they are the real deal or whether they're frauds. You know, that's the question, I guess.
Yeah, UCLA name brand, Utah, they're great every year, but then they just lose to a better team in the postseason. And I think it's very fair to say Washington last week, it's the best team either of these teams has played, maybe by far. UCLA beats them and their dogs at home against Utah. With it being above 3 as well, I think I like Utah. I do see that more of the public money, at least from Action Network, is on Utah. So that kind of takes away from what I thought people would be doing. But again, UCLA, they're at home. They just had a massive win. They're playing one of those teams that every single year they threaten to make a run, but it's because they're not playing anybody. And I just think if UCLA did have a chance in the eyes of those setting the lines, that it would be closer to 3 or something. I think it hypothetically is very realistic they win. And because I saw that line at 4.5, I'm on Utah.
Jesse, what do you have for this game? You know, the other thing is that this is a 12:30 start for these guys, 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. Do you think that factors into it? So a lot of the time, the Pac-12 is evening games. For their time, Pacific Standard starting at 7:30. I think Stanford tonight. No, not Stanford. It's another matchup. Starts at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Do you think the early start makes any difference at all?
Maybe. I mean, it'll definitely make a difference in terms of home field, I would say. So maybe that has something to do with it. But I'm sure it'll impact both of them a little bit. So I didn't read too much into that.
Well, the fan base isn't like the raucous fans found in Baton Rouge, for example, that drink and eat for days on end in preparation of the game. And I admire that talent. I never had that ability to last more than maybe 2 hours, Jesse. I know you find that hard to believe, but I've been a lightweight in terms of, well, it's not necessarily true, but I'll leave my personal stories where they belong.
I think Jesse, I'd fare quite well in Baton Rouge.
What's that?
I think I'd fare quite well in Baton Rouge.
Hey, look, man. Anytime you want to come on over, like we'll have you. I think it's today wouldn't be the day I would invite you over. There's not enough time to like really enjoy the whole atmosphere. Like you had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to really like even get involved because they're about to start.
That's what time minutes. I get up.
But I mean, trust me, when you get up that early and then you spend all day and the game's at 7, it's a lot better. On this, can I say something about this UCLA Utah game real quick? I just, as we pulled it up, like Game Day's talking about it at the same time. I did not know this, but so like this is the first time these two teams are ranked going into this matchup since 2015. Also, UCLA is 0-5 in the last 5 meetings with a minus 27 point differential against Utah. So I don't know. I mean,
minus 27 though. That over 5 games you said so.
No, minus 27 average.
Oh, zoinks.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I'm like, what? I gotta go. Like now I could have sworn I saw it was PPG is what they had up there. So maybe we can check that to make sure that
I got some gems for you. But I want to hit Jordan back, and I was going to say that analysis from Jordan sounded like a real East Coast guy talking about the Pac-12. Let me tell you, I do hail from Pac-12 country, even though a little north of the border. But you mentioned that UCLA played Washington. That's the best team that either of these teams have faced. Sort of with an inkling that sort of UCLA's strength of schedule might be an advantage. I will point out that UCLA currently ranks 129th in strength of schedule. FCS team UC Davis has a stronger strength of schedule ranking than UCLA. Washington's the only team they played, and we still don't know who Washington is because they haven't played.
Right.
Well, the Huskies.
At the same time, who in the world is Michigan State looks awful? What is Stanford? So I do like the Nugget. Neither of them have necessarily strong strengths of schedule. I was just saying, I think Washington's the best team either of them have played.
I don't know.
I'm surprised that coming off of that win, that they're not a little more hyped.
Is Washington
if we're going to give
Florida?
LSU credit and say it's a tough place to play, playing at Florida in the swamp.
That's what I was saying. That's what I'm saying.
Come on.
And to open the season too, and like a new head coach, Billy Napier, like had the they were ready to go in that game. And the other thing is too, I almost want to put more credence on this stat that ESPN had up that UCLA is 0-5, and that whether it's 27 over 5 games, which is still your
last 5 meetings 44-24, 49-3, 41-10, 48-17.
So it is a 27 average. It ain't 27 combined. So this is why I bring that up. These two teams like know each other. They play each other routinely, and Utah matches up well against their program. Like that Utah's program and the talent, the way that they construct their roster, the type of offense and defense that they run matches up well with what Chip Kelly and UCLA has been doing. So and even before that, so I think this number's low. That's what I'm actually like. I think I may have talked myself into throwing some money on Utah in this game.
Let's get back to the strength of schedule.
Yeah,
we're talking about who they played. I'm going to suggest that Utah, and I've said this on a few shows this week. I think I know who this Utah team is because this program has a ton of experience. They got a ton of seniors back from last year. They're the defending Pac-12 champions. So it's not just these first few games they've played this year. Essentially, they're very much the same team they were last year when they ran the table after a slow start, won the Pac-12. Well coached. The coach has been there for an awful long time. Whittingham's been doing good things at Utah for well over a decade. And Chip Kelly, he was good maybe a decade ago. What's he done for you lately? Right. There's this sort of romance with Chip Kelly is, maybe with UCLA he can get that thing going that he's failed to get going for like, what is it, a dozen years? Mm-hmm. I'm not a believer. I'm not a believer in Chip Kelly. I'm not a believer in Utah. I'm not a believer in DTR. Charbonnet, I'm probably a believer in him. He's probably going to be playing on Sundays eventually, but that's probably not enough. I think Utah's got the better coach. They got the better depth, and they certainly have the better quarterback, in my opinion.
I agree with all of the above. Especially on the coaching end, I think there's a huge disparity between coaching abilities, especially game management between UCLA and Utah Utes. Well, I think we can move on to our next one here. There's so many to pick here, and I know.
Well, Arkansas and Mississippi State play in 30 minutes. If we could hit that one, if that's not too much.
I'll let you run with it. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. So, and not to rub it in Jesse's face, but we had that dispute over the Arkansas Texas A&M game a couple of weeks ago, and we saw what happened in that one. Oh no.
I did have plus 2.5 though. I did have plus 2.5.
So that field goal wasn't material to you then. You got your 2 points, and that was all you needed. Yeah. All right. Good deal. So Arkansas plus 9.5 going to play Mike Leach in Mississippi State, and this Mississippi State team is very. I don't want to say Jekyll and Hyde, but I think they're kind of hard to get a read on. Oh, good. Yeah. See, there we go. We got somebody else wanted to hear about this game anyway. I think KJ Jefferson, I think this Arkansas team, if you look at how they played last week against Alabama, they almost made a game of it for a minute there. And then Alabama just, pulled away and boat raced them again. And I was a little nervous because I had put quite a bit of my reputation and a few ducats on Alabama to cover that spread. Because I thought it was one of those, they gave you this huge spread to entice you to take Arkansas money line or take the points. And either way you were getting suckered. And then I was feeling like an idiot around, halfway through the third quarter. And then Alabama just pulled away and made me happy and apparently smart man. I'm not a smart man, but it appeared as though I was. So I like Arkansas. I like Arkansas plus the 9.5 in this game. I think that Mississippi State they have a lot of talent, and I think Mike Leach is really starting to put his stamp on this program in the SEC. But I also think that unless they convert some of these fourth downs in their own territory, on a plus 50% basis, they end up finding a way to shoot themselves in the foot way too often. And I could see Arkansas very, very comfortably keeping this thing close enough that 9.5, it's going to feel like, what in the world did we get suckered into? I don't understand why that spread is there. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm getting suckered because it just doesn't make sense to me. Mississippi State is not 9.5 points better than Arkansas. So I don't get it. But that's my 2 cents. Just from if I'm looking at this, naked, not knowing about how sometimes we get suckered into things, I'm taking Arkansas. And then even after looking at that, and I'm thinking all right, how are they trying to trick me into taking Arkansas? I'm still no, I can't find anything. I'm going with Arkansas. I'm taking that 9.5 points all day. And I might even hit a little bit of a tiny money line bet just because I think that money is sweet.
It does seem, it feels high, no question about it. Any further analysis from Jesse or Jordan here?
Well, you guys might have noticed I had a fairly strong opinion on the UCLA-Utah game. I think I got to stay in my lane here. Jordan owes me one, and I'm sure he's just dying to tell me that sounds like a real West Coast analysis of the Southeast, Jesse. But no, Mike Leach is my boy. I love Mike Leach. I have faith in him, but I can't lay this many points when I don't know enough about what Arkansas's game plan is going to be with the quarterback position today. It does seem like a lot of points, so I'll defer to Chad here.
Jesse, I'm on here. I make it very clear. You guys have the models and the numbers. I produce sports radio, talk about it, look at lines, and indulge, and I think I'm pretty decent at it, but check me whenever, because that's why I'm here with you guys. I don't have anything on this one. If I had to just say anything, you're like, you need to make a play on this, I'd probably go Arkansas just because, it's a pretty big number. They just lost a game to Alabama that was closer than the score is. So maybe you're getting a couple free points of value here, but I'm not on this one. And I probably won't be, but if I had to, I like Arkansas. 8.5 is too enticing is what I'm seeing it at right now.
Yeah, and I agree. Let's move on to the Red River Rivalry here, because this is interesting in the fact that these teams are not ranked for the first time and playing each other since 1998, I believe it is, which is kind of amazing in itself, because one of these teams was always pretty darn good, and most of the time these teams came into this rivalry ranked. But I did a video clip on this game on the under, and supported by a pretty strong betting system, hitting about 68% to the under. Now, it was at 65 earlier in the week, and whoever has lines open, tell me where it is now, because I was hoping to get 67.5 and do 50% pre-flop at 67
right now.
It's 64.5.
That's what I'm seeing. I'm only on one book, but
so what the deal is then, as soon as we get off this show, I'm going, well, actually, probably while I'm on the show here, I'm gonna peg that 64.5, 50% of my normal bet size on the under. We call it pre-flop, and then in game, I do see these teams getting up and down the field here early. I don't see this being a game played in the mud, at least for the first half. And I'm going to look for the other 50% at 71.5. So it may at this point be better just to wait and do the whole bet at 71.5 instead of 64.5. But I do think this plays down into the low to mid 50s and doesn't see a type of game that's 31-31.
Let's see what Venables being that Oklahoma. I think this is not Lincoln Riley's Oklahoma, So like I think he's continuing to work every week at tightening up this defense, and I could see the path to that too, to him doing everything he can to try to keep this game slow and give his team a chance, because otherwise they're going to they could get blown out, because Texas isn't a joke. Like Texas is starting to impress me a little bit. Anyway, go ahead.
No, it's all good. Jesse, do you agree with the under-over or no comment?
I agree with some of what Chad said, especially the part where Texas could blow them out. I did get a 7 when there was 7s available. I don't think there's any 7s available anymore. Yeah, I mean, I've long been skeptical of Oklahoma, even before Lincoln Riley went to USC. This Oklahoma team is a team that's looked very good against inferior opponents and looked very – even a lot of think about how many games they had to bail out and come back in the fourth quarter, even at home, against teams like Iowa State and TCU and even Kansas State, when Kansas State was nobody. So I'm not a big believer in this Oklahoma team. They've sort of been big brother in this Red River rivalry. So this is a chance for little brother to get one over on big brother. I don't think little brother is going to pass up that opportunity. I think Texas spanks them pretty good here.
And I agree with that too. And that's another reason why I like the under, is that defense, I think, can keep Oklahoma more than contained. And by the way, they're on a 2-game losing streak. And the last time the Sooners were on a 2-game losing streak and installed as a dog, October 21st of 1998.
Wow, that's way back.
That doesn't, in my humble opinion, that in my experience, that does not mean that Oklahoma is due to win. It means that things are not good in Soonerland, and unfortunately for the fans, this game actually could get pretty ugly. And one of my best friends in my whole lifetime is a big-time Sooner fan. He went to Oklahoma. Hey, how's it going, Ken? He lives in Dallas now, and he, don't hold it against him that he's a Cowboy fan either. He's a pretty good guy. But anyway, that could be painful to watch today, but it's at the Cotton Bowl, and it's always a spectacle. And the State Fair, by the way, takes place. So there are other things to do for Sooner fans than watch the game.
Watch your team lose.
Yeah, exactly.
When does Texas join the SEC? Because that's
2024.
So this is an early parting gift for Texas to get this.
Well, I think Texas and Oklahoma are going to the SEC, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying like it's that Big 12, like it's got a different energy. I think when they come to the SEC, it's gonna be interesting.
I mean, will they still have the Red River game when they're both SEC teams?
I think that will continue. I would think that would continue. I don't know for a fact.
I'm assuming it'll continue, but there's going to be quite a bit of realignment, and I think you could actually see Alabama and Auburn go to the East, and then that becomes really interesting because then it'll be like you have LSU, A&M, Texas, and Oklahoma in the West, and then Auburn, Georgia, Alabama, and Florida, Tennessee in the East. And it'll kind of rebalance things because it's been very West heavy for a while in the SEC. But no, I was thinking more in terms of those two schools have been two of the top schools in the Big 12 for a while, and so this game has always had like that extra meaningful nature to it, and it's about to completely change too. Like they're going to be just another two teams in the SEC very soon. So. It's this one's big.
Yeah, it is. Let's move one other game in college football, and then we'll do a quick NFL for tomorrow. I'm looking at a bunch of games here that are pretty intriguing. It is a pretty good SEC card. With 3 games with ranked opponents, it's pretty good stuff. Well, I guess we wouldn't be fair if we didn't talk about Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher a little bit, right?
Yeah.
24-point line here. And by the way, Fisher in his coaching career is 2-0 against the spread, 1-1 straight up. And that 1-1, the one win, for people that have been with me, they know that I have these games. I don't know when they're going to happen or how they're going to happen, but I was on A&M last year in that win. And that was the other time he was a 20-point dog. Is the betting public really missing the boat, which is my personal opinion here, by thinking that Alabama is just going to steamroll this team? Because that A&M, you look at, granted, they haven't played well. They play really well, then they play like another team that doesn't even belong in the conference. And then they come back with another big effort, and they do have the talent and the names and the physicality to slow down the Alabama ground game. I think if Bryce doesn't play, we could see this line drop back down to maybe 20 or even below 20. But they're not going to announce that till game time. But nevertheless, I think if you even have an inkling on A&M, this is the time to get it. And just in case he does play or doesn't play, it's not going to go any higher, I think. So I do think there's an edge here. I think
he's probably
that A&M's been so inconsistent, but is this the matchup where they're going to defend their coach and show Nick Saban a thing or two? I don't know.
It's this. Well, first of all, I think Bryce Young's going to play, but second of all, like that last point that you made is the one to pay attention to. This, unlike Appalachian State, is not a game that they are going to walk into thinking that it's worth overlooking or anything like that. And I look back to that game against Arkansas a couple of weeks ago, same kind of thing. That was a big game for both of those teams. And I mean, that was played in Dallas, wasn't it? big nationally televised, like big game, and you saw A&M rose to the occasion. Max Johnson being out, their quarterback situation is a little more murky, but it's I think to your point, the talent level, and then Fisher and that old Fisher Saban rivalry. I don't think A&M wins this game. I think God help me, I don't see a path to that. But keeping this thing, 10, 15, 17 points, absolutely. I can see that for sure. Because there's enough talent on that roster, and there's enough history between these two programs that even though it's in Tuscaloosa, I like A&M to keep this thing close enough to get under that number. But I would never take the money line in this game. No way.
Yeah, Jesse, you'd like to know the power rating I have for UCLA is 19. Texas A&M is 33.2. Alabama is also 33.2. So I guess those two teams I've just mentioned would probably crush UCLA. And I think either one of them would probably be favored by at least 17 points. But I just wanted to, get back to that West Coast theme with a Midwest game. Anyway, what do you think of this matchup, Jesse? And is there any opportunities first half maybe?
I have no thoughts, to be honest with you. It's a game that, don't know who's going to play, don't know who's going to show up. It's a big line. Maybe you'd have to say, when in doubt, take the points, but I don't like what I've seen with the Aggies, so I'm not dying to bet on them. So it's a hard pass for me in all aspects. But I do want to answer Alex, and I want to thank Alex for his support. He watches all our shows. He supports us all the time, and I think I can speak for John when I say that, yes, John definitely still likes that under in the Oklahoma-Texas game. And as far as the under in the TCU-Kansas game, could be a value bet, as that number has climbed up a little bit. But that's a game. Again, that's a game that I don't really want to bet on. It's a game that I want to watch and maybe learn for next week and the coming weeks, because I think we're going to learn a lot from that game. We're going to learn a lot about who TCU is, a lot about who Kansas is, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in that game. So I'll probably stay away from any action in both those games.
Yeah, you're right about Alex. He was one of my, back in the days of my Twitter followers was, like 200-300. And he's been probably one of the, definitely top 5 most tenured and loyal followers with our stuff. There's no doubt about it. So big shout out to him. Let's move on to one. Do you have any more college games you want to quick go over before we turn it over to the NFL?
I do too, John. We talked about one on our show this week. Like, you've got a couple ACC lines we disagree on. I don't, and that's bad because you're the one who saves me every week. So if we disagree, we could be in for some trouble. But I'm personally taking Pitt. I think that being favored 2 touchdowns, I don't think Virginia Tech's a good football team at all. And I think after losing to Georgia Tech, you're still favored by 14. I'm in, but that's not what I want to focus on. This line has been the weirdest one all week, and I'm glad you guys are here to tell me why I'm an idiot and I'm falling into a trap. Miami loses to Middle Tennessee. They bench their quarterback. They are now favored by 3.5 over North Carolina, who can score a ton but can't stop anybody. John, I know you're on UNC and you had some good reasoning behind it. I just can't think of a reason Miami would be favored, and that's why I have Miami minus 3.5. But I want to know what you guys think, because that game, along with the Notre Dame line, those both just killed me upon seeing them, and I'm still trying to figure out how those teams are favored.
Jordan, when you were a kid, did you ever play Last Goal Wins? Sorry.
No, I don't believe so.
Well, maybe it's got to be hockey. Last Goal Wins. That's a big street hockey thing. When the game's been going on. Last Goal Wins. I think that's this Miami UNC game is going to be whoever possesses the ball last is going to win. I mean, it should just be a crapshoot, a shootout, right? Neither team can defend anything. If you want to bet your money on that, you might as well just start flipping coins or go play craps or roulette or whatever else, is in my opinion.
Is the smarter play to look at this game when it starts off, and if these two teams get off to a somewhat slow start, just hammer a reduced over?
Yes.
And stay away from the line altogether. Like that just seems, because I kind of feel the same way that you guys do about these teams really, really struggle to stop teams. And then once that starts happening, they just open up the playbook and just start doing all kind of shit. And so I could totally see these two teams opening up a can of, offensive whoop ass on each other. And
the same philosophy if one team's trailing too, right?
Yeah,
so if one team goes down by 14 or something, you know, the live betting on that team to come back.
Right. Yeah.
You could end up with a pretty good middle. You could.
Yeah, just play regression this whole game. Like just regression towards a tie score and regression towards like an over if it's getting sloppy where it's low
It's
score.
not often 66 feels low, but I think we all agree like that feels low.
66 might be low for like a single team's game score. I mean, I don't know. Like, where's this thing going to end up? Who knows?
44-42. This game's got 44-42 written all over it.
I could see it.
Scoreagami?
Yeah, I definitely think it's first one to 40 wins. Yeah. Probably, maybe even more. But angle-wise here, the Hurricanes are 23-47 against the number after allowing 125 or fewer rushing yards in 2 straight games. It's surprising Middle Tennessee State didn't gain more than that. And North Carolina is 0-8 off a home win against a conference rival spanning the last 3 seasons. They're also 1-10 off of a win against a conference rival the last 3 years. But I'm here to tell you what I shared on the ESPN Syracuse show with Jordan this week, is that teams that have lost outright, priced as 20 or more point favorites in that loss, and are now facing a team that is 500 or better, are just 2-10 with 1 push against the number, and that works against Miami. And we'll find out today. And I think the bye week actually hurts them because what in baseball, you have a real bad loss, you can forget about it because you got the game next day.
That's right.
These guys had to sit on it, and at home, media is not good. Mm-hmm. And I just wonder if they, when you really get your face ripped off and you thought you were a really good team, and all of a sudden you realize you're not. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, not NFL pros.
Yeah. Not to mention people chirping in your ear and texting you, DMing you all week.
Life wallet can't save you now, Miami. You got to win the games.
I was going to say, too, I mean, even guys like in baseball, like that Mets starting pitcher last night, I forget what his name was, but
they're calling him Sad Max now. Yeah,
Sad Max. Do you know they didn't have a starter name for the game, too, until I guess it was this morning? I mean, who else will it be?
Yeah.
Well, I think the thinking was that if they won last night, maybe you start Bassett and try to save DeGrom for game 1 of the next series. But obviously that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what I think about saving people when you're in the postseason? It's ask Buck Showalter what saving your closer for when you have a lead is like when Jose Bautista goes off of Ubaldo Jimenez and walks you off. Like he's like, well, we were saving Zach Britton for if we got the lead. It's like, how'd that work out for you? Like, I saved my good pillow for when I have really, really bad neck pain. Why don't you just use your good pillow all the time so you don't ever get really bad neck pain?
That makes total sense to me. I mean, I learned something on this show every single time we're together, and it just goes to show you can't be successful in anything, not even putting your head on a pillow, by doing it by yourself.
That's right. Hey, look, we're all here to help each other. It's a support.
One more college game. What do you guys think? One more college game?
Or why don't we just, I was thinking of going around the horn with just the best bet, either NFL or college football, and then we're 12 minutes away from kick of the 12 games. That good with you guys?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Well, with that said, I don't know what I really want to say here, but I got a lot of stuff I could say. Jesse, you have something that you can talk about?
I do.
All right, go ahead.
Last week, I had Illinois as the underdog at Wisconsin, the game that cost Paul Chryst his job. And man, was I impressed with Illinois in that game. I know a lot of people think Illinois, they're a one-trick pony, run the ball. That's all they can do. Didn't look like that to me. It looked like their defense was phenomenal. Tommy DeVito didn't look like Hendon Hooker, but he looked, 18 of 24 passing. Short passes, whatever. You move the sticks. No turnovers. That's all they need him to do. You can do that. You can win a lot of games hitting 18 of 24 passes and continuing to move the sticks, especially if you got the nation's leading rusher behind you. So speaking of that game, so it was Illinois upsetting Wisconsin by 24 points in Madison. Paul Chryst gets fired. So now Wisconsin is a 10.5-point favorite on the road at Northwestern. Northwestern, quite famously, is putting up a ton of yards. They're moving the ball and they're fumbling and turning it over and losing games. They did cover against John's Penn State in their last game, but I like Northwestern plus 10.5 against Wisconsin. I'm not sold on this fire the coach, new coach comes in, fixes all the problems just like that. Not sold on that. Maybe Wisconsin wins the game. 10.5 seems like a lot. And additionally, on the flip side of that, Illinois at home against Iowa. Last time I checked, you need to score points to win games. Iowa can't score points. They can't win games against a team like Illinois. So Illinois and Northwestern. Those are my two best bets.
I like it. Let's put Chad on the spot here and see what he's got for us.
All right, so I think I've talked myself into that Utah play as like the thing that I see as like the surest thing this week. But I want to throw, and so if you want to know the rest of the analysis on that, rewind this show if you weren't watching it when we were going over that game. You can hear all four of us talk about it. But in the NFL, this Seahawks Saints game really like jumps out at me as like it is begging people to take the Seahawks. And AG was just telling me that everybody he's hearing is saying that they're taking Seattle in that game because of the plus points. And I'm just saying, like, I don't know, man, like that line never made sense to me when I saw them drop it like at the end of last week. I was like, there's no reason the Saints should be favored by 5.5 or 6 or whatever the number is. Whenever you get a chance to go to the window. And so crazy as this may sound, if I'm taking any action on that game, I'm taking the Saints minus the points because something doesn't smell right. And I feel a setup and I feel like they're just, again, here, fishy. They're dangling that bait for you and they want you to bite on it.
I got 2 words for you, Chad.
Yeah.
Nebraska and Northwestern.
Okay, there you go.
They traveled to Ireland, played that game. They come back. Where are they now?
I thought it was because they both start with the letter N.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not dying to bet on a team coming off of a London game. I'm really not.
That's AG and I talked about that when we discussed it. We're going to drop that show. We recorded it. We're going to drop that show later on this evening. But yeah, because I thought the same thing. Jet lag for 3 days, coming back and trying to get all your bearings straight and everything. But I don't know, just something tells me, like, knowing all that, why on earth would the bookmakers offer you the opportunity to just take their money like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make any sense to just have 70% of the bets take the points and the money line, and you lose your ass if you're Vegas. Something doesn't smell right to me, and I think that all of the logical things say yes. Take Seattle and take those points because of what you just said. How are the Saints going to rebound coming off of a loss in London, and with all the trouble that travel and like I said, the jet lag and getting all your shit back together before your next game. But I don't know, going into the Superdome and playing in front of that crazy crowd, and the Saints are still, I don't know, somehow they're still alive, and Dennis Allen is, still, he made it back without getting fired. Usually a London coach, somebody goes to London and doesn't come back on the same team playing. So I don't know. It sounds fishy to me. I'll tell you this much. There's no way in hell I'm taking Seattle. If I'm doing anything, I'm avoiding this game, but I'm not falling for the bait is all I'm saying.
I don't have Seattle. That's one thing I'll say. I don't have Seattle either.
Yeah. That's it.
Well, I'm going to save the executive producer of ESPN Syracuse for last. I'm the host. I can determine when I go. And I'm going to go now. And I'm glad you guys are sitting down, because this is going to make Jesse drink heavily when he sees this. Now, Chad and I talked about this game earlier on this week on their show, the Men of Order. I've done the research now thoroughly, and this is going to be a bet. And it's in the NFL, and it's a shocker. And here's my little slide. The Steelers. Okay, they have never been a 14-point underdog since 1951.
What?
And common sense tells you that you would want to probably be on the Buffalo Bills because they are the better team. But check this out. Betting on road dogs facing favorites outgaining their opponents by 0.75 yards per play, which in the NFL is a ton.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite has gained 400 or more total yards in 3 consecutive games, which doesn't happen a lot in the NFL. So we're looking at regression and progression, I guess is the word for the Steelers. So it's like an arbitrage. I'm selling the Bills. I'm buying the Steelers. So the straight up record's 19-29, but 36-8. Jesse Schule, 36-8, 82%. Putting your money behind a dog with serious amounts of fleas. If it's a double-digit underdog, it's 10-1. And the under is 12-1. So I just gave out 2 free bets. And Jesse's looking at me like,
the fact that the money line is that the straight up is 19-29. That's impressive. Like
you would make money doing that over
that's
time.
A big number. 40% of the time.
That's a great point to make.
14-point dog wins straight up. What? That's mad money right there.
Yeah, double-digit dog. We see it a lot in college football. I always say 310 underdogs since 1989 of 17.5 more points have won the game straight up, but 67 of those 310 have occurred in the last 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think of Texas A&M today again.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Just,
I don't know. I think there's a different game out there. I don't like that. I don't like A&M to win that one straight up, but I do like them to cover that spread.
Northwestern. Anybody going to make fun of me about my Northwestern pick?
It's the Vanderbilt of the Big Ten.
Oh
it's
God.
the Stanford of the Big Ten.
It really is.
I think Ralph Wilson shared a graphic the other day about Northwestern ranks like top 5 in the nation in plays per game.
Really? Wow. Let's see.
I think they're one of the top 5 teams that start with the letter N, too. And that's important. Now, that'd be a cool query. I could do teams that start with the word N and have a mascot that starts with a W. Coming off a loss and having gone through the McDonald's drive-thru the night before are 0-50. That's meaningful. Anyway, Jordan, save me from the embarrassing dialogue I'm doing before everybody just leaves.
There are a lot of super weird NFL lines for me this week. That, like you said, Chad, I had 3 other producers here at the station come up and tell me they're taking Seattle, and I immediately respond to them with, hold on, give me 2 minutes. I'm going to lock in New Orleans if you guys all have Seattle. Doesn't make sense. But there are a couple other games I see just as odd, and I like them all. First of all, I saw about 70% of total bets are on the Dolphins. I don't think the drop from Tua to Teddy is that much, and the fact that it's only 3 points, I think the Jets at home could maybe win this game. I hate betting on the Jets, but that was odd to me. And then the Panthers-Niners game. San Fran -6.5, just beat LA. Now on the road this year, they've scored like 10 points and like 7 or 10 and 11. They play much better at home. I don't think Carolina has any business being within a touchdown. And I think they put that line out to say, hey, you don't think San Fran's going to win by a touchdown against Baker Mayfield? Are you kidding me? That makes me really want to hop on Carolina. I expect San Fran to struggle to score on the road again. So those are like the two independent, but I love New Orleans as well. But those are the 3 NFL games that I just really like those lines. The Cardinals, I don't know if anybody saw this too. They also opened up as favorites way back over Philly, and now that line has moved. There are a lot of injuries.
They were minus 2.5. They were minus 2.5 to early.
Oh no, where'd Chad go?
I don't know.
Okay, well, they were though. They were minus 2.5. I looked. There are a lot of injuries with the Cardinals' offensive line. So I don't know whether that was an injury line move or something else, but I haven't touched Arizona yet. But just the fact that they opened as favorites against the undefeated Eagles, I'm going to be looking at that one all the way up until Sunday afternoon.
Keep one thing in mind, the opening lines were done before the preseason even started. So in the Circa, and the Westgate, I've taken every single pick that was ever made in those contests. Westgate goes back 10 years. When the line has moved 7 or more points, which this is just about at 7, I think, 2.5 to 5, right? That's 7.5. That becomes a contrarian play for me in the Circa contest because the majority of people that pick that game are going to be on the Eagles. And in the contest, you want to you're not necessarily sometimes picking winners. You're picking a team that is contrarian to everybody else in hopes that you win it.
To create some separation for yourself. Yeah. Can I bring up a point? Because it's really interesting that Jordan identified something that I identified too. But like when the lines first came out, where they started to set them for this week after week 4 was completed, or at least after the Sunday games are completed. I'm going to go through. These are the games where the home team is a dog, and I just want to kind of like plant this seed in people's heads that like this could be a week to go after some of these home dogs and actually see. Like, I could see 6 or 7 home dogs winning this week. So you got the Browns +2 against the Chargers. You've got the Jets +3.5 against the Dolphins with Wilson back now. You've got the Commanders at home +1.5 against the Titans. I think the Commanders are a way better team than people give them credit for. They're very Jekyll and Hyde. Carson Wentz is like all over the place. If he plays well and he plays well at home, that could be a sneaky one. The Panthers, as Jordan mentioned, is another one. 6.5 dogs at home. The Cardinals, 5.5 dogs at home against the Eagles, and then you've got the one that was kind of weird was the Broncos were actually favored at home and ended up losing. But there's a lot of this stuff where I see some plays here where I'm like, man, I don't know, like why are these home teams dogs? And then the Saints are favorites. Like, what? It doesn't make any sense. Like, how you could have some of these other teams as like that big a dog at home, and then the Saints are favored against a team that has clearly been playing better than them in Seattle. And Geno Smith, for as inconsistent as he may have been, like he's actually been, or as the team has been, he's actually been like consistently solid. So I don't know. Some of this stuff doesn't make sense, and all those home dogs look very attractive to me, to where it's like worth like maybe I might throw like a little $5 parlay where I hit all of those money lines for those home dogs just in case. Because if it hits, it's going to hit big.
Before we leave the home dogs too, like that Washington, Tennessee line, everything I've seen is like everybody's on Tennessee. Lines pretty much staying strong relatively. Everything points to take Washington from what I've seen, and I'm just too afraid. Like I feel like this
the Colts have the Titans have the Colts on deck, right? So this is a meaningless game for them with that being, with that division the way it is. next week's game is the big game. This game is nothing for them.
Okay.
Good
That
point.
might put me over the edge. I might be sold now.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Well, I
trust
mean,
Carson Wentz. I just don't.
If it's a 2-horse race in that division, you're playing the Colts next week. If you're the coach, how many carries do you give Derrick Henry?
12.
Well, I'm telling you.
No, it's a good point though, because like, how much do you want to risk that? You know, you need him against the Colts next week.
If he carries the ball 25 times and he gets hurt,
yep,
you're a fucking idiot. Oh, I'm sorry for that.
No, he's right.
But,
He's
The
right.
Dontrell Hillard game incoming.
By the way, LSU just fumbled the opening kickoff to Tennessee. So, yay! Here we go. Let's go. It's,
Tigers money line.
I'm about to hit the money line.
I honestly think that I
as soon
wouldn't
as we
limit
give
it
up
to
this
home
touchdown.
dogs, Chad. I would say a guy could do quite well this week in the NFL, just blindly taking the entire slate, every dog.
Every
I
dog,
honestly
yeah,
believe
yeah.
every dog.
There's a guy I love, Matty Betts on TikTok, and he does a thing where he blindly bets the money line for every NFL dog all season. Last year it was profitable, and this year it's been profitable again. Obviously, we'll see what happens as the season goes on because the spreads will get bigger and that whole all the lines will be different. But like, if you blindly bet every NFL dog money line, at least recently it has been profitable. So I love that, Jesse.
All right, so you want to hear this? Remember I was talking about making this parlay. So 5-pick parlay: Commanders, Jets, Browns, Panthers, Cardinals, all the home dogs. I know, but listen,
Just don't
$5,
read it again, please. Just give me the
$5, $523. That's worth $5. I'm sorry, that's worth.
I'm not sure I have the stomach for it though.
How much does $50 win?
It's $5. It's $5. Well, it's going to be $5,000. Obviously, I mean, you just add a zero, John. Come on now. But yeah,
I'm not so good with numbers. I guess
it's it's 100 to 1. It's 100 to 1. I'm just saying. Like I'm hitting that. I'm placing that bet. $5 to win 523.86. Yes.
Okay, good. I feel like a major degenerate when I place a bet mid-show. Like I do it with John whenever he comes on ESPN. So I'm glad I'm not alone. You got to take it when you're getting the info.
Yeah. Hey, look, man. Yeah, that's.
I will say that my Sunday card is exclusively dogs in the NFL.
There you go. You see,
I have only dogs. So I didn't go and take every one, but I've got a few that I have the stomach for.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that didn't turn my nose too badly.
Yeah, so it's 7-0 already, it's 6-0. LSU just gave up a touchdown, so that was quick. Didn't take long. So to your point earlier, Jesse, what happens if LSU gets out to a slow start? Well, here we go. We're off to the races. I'm not. I will. We'll see. It's time for me to get off of here before I start throwing shit.
All right. Okay. Well, that would actually be a reason to keep the show going if you're going to start throwing shit. I mean, that would be fun as hell to watch.
Oh gosh, man.
You know, a few F-bombs here and there by the LSU Tiger fan of the year. I'm just glad I'm a sports fan. I only have a few favorite teams like Penn State, New England Patriots, and whatever team is number one in the SEC.
Oh, all right.
Well, it's easy not to be biased when you're a Canadian living in Asia, didn't go to college. So, I don't have that many biases when it comes to college football.
That's a great setup.
Well, anyway,
I love it.
I guess this ends the show for today. It was a great show, and I appreciate all your time and appreciate the chat room here. We had an active chat room today. Numbers look like they are going up every single week, and it's only a matter of time until we get real big shows going. So thanks for watching, and we'll have another one starting at 10 or 10:30 next Saturday. And Jesse, you want to take us out of here?
Yeah, I'm sure the viewers will be coming in droves after Chad's underdog money line parlay pays out. But until then,
he's going to the pizza parlor.
Until then, bet with your head, not over it, and may all the wins be yours.
Let's go.
Well done.
Go Tigers.